The Hawai'i Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Our Michael Lescaro is making his way here shortly. He's feeling
He's an old man.
He's that much older. He's a year older. Happy, I guess, belated birthday to our Michael Lescaro, who celebrated that much closer to 40. Just kidding.
Whoa.
He's still very much. He's 31, I believe,
So
but still a hatchling, as I like to call you guys, compared to myself. He's a baby. I remember he turned dirty 30 last year. So
That's what it was.
30
Okay.
yesterday. So happy belated to Michael. Even though we did wish him happy birthday yesterday via text, got to make it officially
Make sure
official
the beautiful
on
people know.
on air. So but also today's actual birthday, I got to make sure I give a shout out to this amazing human, my dad. Happy birthday, Dad. Woo! Darren Agbayani, everybody. Another one that's just that much closer to 40. So he's just doing, look at that guy on our YouTube channel. The Shakas, that was in Waikiki Beach. So yeah, happy birthday, Dad. Love you so much. And yeah, he is a big reason of who I am today. Yeah, he's
big reason you're here.
That's where, well, yeah, pretty
Shout
much.
out
though.
him.
Pretty much. But also, he is the one, I think I've told you guys this story before. Just always, when I was growing up, I'm the only child, and obviously I'm a daddy's girl. He's a girl dad, the OG girl dad before, the term was made cool by Mr. Kobe Bryant, but definitely the ultimate girl dad, and he is the one that would always tell me that I could do anything the boys could do as long as, even though it would be harder. There's our Michael walking in here. So the one that told me I could do anything the boys can do might be a little difficult if I go into that type of field, but here I am. Always thought like, hey, I can hang with the guys in this sports field and everything and having a lot of fun. So again, shout out and happy birthday to our dad. And here's the other birthday boy that celebrated yesterday walking into our studio, Michael Lescaro. Again, that much closer to 40 now, Michael, for you. So welcome to the club. You're over the 30-year-old hump officially now.
Yes, I am old. I just kind of chilled out yesterday. Sorry.
As you should, celebrating your birthday. All right,
Well,
though.
we have to work during the holidays. We're
Yeah.
Exactly.
sicko. We're part of the sicko committee. We have
Yeah.
to work during the holidays.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. And that's where I was trying to explain to like my family and friends. Like, I mean, we had 3 basketball games on Saturday essentially, and yesterday was kind of like a nice, easier, relaxing day. And this week is kind of goes takes a little bit of a dip, and then you got Sunday, boom, the Diamond Head Classic starts, and then we're all the way through Christmas Eve, all of that stuff. So with football and basketball going on, but we'll get to that when we get to that this week. And on today's show, we will talk about some women's basketball game day coming up tonight. So we'll give you a preview of that game and then also recap Saturday's big UH men's basketball win on Saturday. A much needed win. Luckily, the Rainbow Warriors able to come out on top. We'll get to some University of Hawaii football news in terms of commitments and some official visits in just a second. And we will look at some of the Heisman stuff that happened over the weekend as well. Get into a lot of NFL discussions as, the best team and everyone's favorite team is in action today, and that being the Chicago Bears. Just kind of playing maybe for another draft pick, but that's okay. Another high-level draft pick. That's all we're going for at this point. No, but we'll talk about some NFL and then, like I say, get into some women's basketball. But yeah, a lot. Thank you for tuning in on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network. We are streaming live on our YouTube channel like we do this and every Monday and taking you to 10 a.m. So feel free to text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481 if you guys want to get in on the conversation. Or like we know a lot of you do already, you can also chime in via the live chat on YouTube. We'll try to kind of peek over at that as often as we can.
We already have our friend Caesar checking in from the Valley Isle.
We always have to have Caesar on here. No, I don't know if we have any jokes today for Caesar, but
Not quite
I
yet.
think
We'll get
I might order some Little Caesars today for you, Caesar.
Honestly, shout out Little Caesars. Like as a college staple for Paul Brecht. The $5 pizza for the full pie. it got me through a good few years there. So.
I just remember having that when I used to work at Jamba Juice in Waikele, and Kmart was right next door, and you got Little Caesars right there. And that's
Kmart.
I know that was like the staple that is not there anymore. But yes, good morning to everybody tuning in right now, watching us live on YouTube. All right, I want to definitely get into some UH football conversation because a lot of stuff happened on a Friday and over the weekend. So if in case you guys missed it, because most of it was just all on social media and stuff, so we want to make sure we fill you guys in on that stuff. First, a big, not necessarily, well, I guess a commitment, big recommitment to the University of Hawaii, announcing that he is staying. Wanted to give everybody a scare, though, wanted to do the whole graphic thing and whatnot. But Peter Manuma officially announcing that he is staying or coming back / staying home and finishing up at the University of Hawaii. So I know that was really big news, and a lot of fans. I mean, it's not like we heard anything different or even heard rumors. I honestly did not hear any rumors that there was a chance that he could leave. Obviously, people know that it's important to keep players like Peter, but fortunately, he reassured everybody that he is not going anywhere. And again, giving everyone a little bit of a scare with his graphic, because as we know, everyone's posting the graphic announcing whether they're entering the NFL draft or they're transferring. But I told Paul them, like, the only thing that could have made this scare by Peter better is if the design of his graphic looked like how everybody else's graphic looked like.
Had to be like a one-for-one replica.
Everybody would have freaked out. But no, Peter Manuma is staying put. So that's one of the key pieces of this defense. And like I keep mentioning, as I mentioned all last week, if you're someone like Peter who has the talent and the drive to potentially continue your career at the next level, you want to play, one, you want to continue to get playing time. Two, you want to play for a guy that coached in the NFL, like Dennis Thurman, right? You don't want to, it would be difficult to take your chances going somewhere else and risk not even like seeing the football field, because as we've seen right now, you can come from this school. I mean, look at someone like Darius Muasau. Maybe the New York Giants aren't doing that great, but at the same time, played for the University of Hawaii, also went on to UCLA, but able to come from here and kind of take that route. Always was already a standout at the University of Hawaii, but now has made his way to the NFL, right? And it's all about getting your reps, all about getting playing time. So I'm so happy to see Peter at least, calm a lot of nerves for fans. Still, I don't know if we'll see the same thing. Like I said, no rumors about Micah Alihado or anything leaving. I don't know if we'll get one of those, a similar, hey, I'm staying type of confirmation like we did from Peter, but at least this is a good start.
Yeah, and did people contact him? Probably. He's the type of player that deserves it. But I do want to point out for the fans that we're a little bit worried. He did just got married last Sunday. So, when you enter a marriage, as Paul can point out, there's certain things that you got to kind of stop doing. So if there's one thing he could kind of joke around with, it would be, hey, let's kind of put a scare. And that's a little fun that he had, I guess.
Yeah. For everybody else. But looking at some of the newer commits coming into town, we got a couple of guys, by the way of TCU, which is like, okay, maybe we can keep it all going, though, from TCU. Adding to the special teams unit, we got a kicker. This is the interesting thing, though. We got a kicker, Caleb Sempebois. Sempebois.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We'll learn how to say it soon enough.
So he's the kicker, has quite the leg. Didn't really get any game time. He does have 4 years of eligibility left, but he can at least kick some bombs. He can get the distance, right? That's something that maybe from Kansei Matsuzawa, we don't know. He hasn't really proved to get that quite of a distance. I remember it's like around 40 yarders is kind of where he can make it in. This Caleb kid, like, he has videos on social media making it from like 53, I believe, was one of the long ones. So at least can get there. Obviously not game film. It's different in the game, but at least you right down the middle, and it like cleared really pretty.
Something else I'll point out as well, as much as we do love Kansei, he didn't handle the kickoffs this year. That was Ben Falk, who also just participated in senior night. So, got to fill that role as well. And if you do have a big leg, that's another way that you can find your way onto the field. And also, at the end of the day, it's never a bad thing to have a kicking competition. At least in my opinion, I think competition breeds success. And in this case, it would bring out I mean, Kansei wasn't scared to compete last year, ended up winning the job out of the preseason as it was, and it looks like he might have to do that again this year, and that's totally okay because at the end of the day, you want the best possible kicker out there at all times for Hawaii.
Yeah, and maybe you get creative. Maybe you get one that does like the point afters because Kansei was 100% from the point after attempt, and then you get another guy that kicks a little
It's not
further and
unheard of.
so you could get creative. Yeah, at least 4 years of eligibility, so that's a good
I
start.
got time to figure something out.
Yeah.
Not only that, but you also got a long snapper. As we know, Hawaii lost not one, but both of their long snappers to the transfer portal. And Jax Thompson is a long snapper from TCU, also with 4 years of eligibility. So a couple of guys there from TCU and heading to the special teams unit.
Yeah, and Paul brought up a good point about Caleb Simpebwa, where he doesn't really because we just saw Kansei got offered a scholarship, put on scholarship, and very emotional videos like, well, why put this guy on scholarship? Well, there is a role that Caleb can go into as in kickoff, and with him and Jax Thompson, one thing about these two specialists is that they are athletic at their position. You know, I've been watching some of Jax Thompson's videos. Like, he's 6'1", he markets himself as an athletic long snapper, so he's a bit on the slimmer side, but that means he can go get downfield. And if you're gonna have to cover punts and whatnot, he's a guy that can get down there. I know Solomon Landrum and Hunter Higham were kind of like that this past season, where I would see them sprinting down the field to go in coverage. But we also saw, and thinking that Northern Iowa game, where we got a little creative on the 2-point conversion, where Hunter Higham was able to catch a 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we need those athletes there at long snapper. And for Caleb Simpebwa, he's also a soccer player in high school. He got all conference honors. And he comes from a very good family. I know his dad is a traveling minister, so I know our football team is very vocal about their faith. So I want to think that kind of brought some vibes, where people want to come because, hey, this is where you can feel connected with the team and whatnot. And I think that's what we got to do as the University of Hawaii. And once we probably talk about some of the official visits that we have confirmed, we got to know what we are. We got to know what we're selling and use what works for you. Yeah, but yeah, these two guys are very athletic at their positions. Sometimes you think specialists aren't even football players. I know some people were kind of complaining about the onside kick with the Detroit Lions and Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, we'll get to that for sure.
But you do need to have athletes on the field, right? I mean, kickers are football players. Long snappers are football players, and these two players that we just got committed to the University of Hawaii, they are definitely football players. I do want to point out there is a third TCU player in the portal that we did offer, and that is linebacker Terrence Cooks Jr. His father played a few years in the NFL, so maybe we're trying to land. We're trying to go 3 for 3 on TCU players in the portal.
There's also a wide receiver, by the way, in there. We haven't offered him or anything, but hey, listen, if we're just going to go all in on it, I also think you made an awesome point there, and I'll toss it back to you in just a moment, Ku, where Hawaii, and this is part of the reason why we were very vocal about needing an extension for Timmy Chang and why we talk about stability in the program. It's having that culture. It's having an identity that recruits can look at and say, okay, this is what I'm getting into when I go into a program. And it doesn't change year over year. And it doesn't change when you lose a vocal leader and a vocal spiritual leader in a guy like Logan Taylor. You know that it's going to continue on year over year. So I do think it's been an interesting but a quality strategy for Hawaii to lean into their faith and lean into that, as well as it's a big thing that a lot of recruits, it's a big thing, honestly speaking, in football especially, that you see players fall back into. And if you can have that comfort, especially when you're coming to a place that for a lot of people is pretty far away from home, it goes a really, really long way in the way that you're able to feel both on and off the field.
Mm-hmm. And we will get more into more University of Hawaii football conversation, or continue it anyways, get you caught up with some official visits that could be coming in within these next couple of weeks as well. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Kulale Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Kulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Liscaro. Happy Monday. Beautiful day outside. And shout out to everybody tuning in from across Oahu and, of course, our friends on the neighbor islands. And I wonder if Alex is tuning in right now. We always got to say a shout out to Alex, who tunes in from Australia. So he's always like coming in, like the last show, I think last week, he said bye right at the end. So I wanted to make sure we give our shout out to Alex because that's pretty like flipping awesome, like to tune in from Australia. So we appreciate everyone that listens either live or watches live or on demand, especially all across the world. So that's pretty cool. All right. Want to continue our conversation on University of Hawaii football. And I want to pass it on to our Michael Liscaro, though, as he has been just scouring the internet and especially on Twitter and all the platforms and talking to his sources and whatnot to get us caught up with what we can see and what's been happening in terms of just some of the official visits coming in for the University of Hawaii.
Yeah, so the transfer portal hit the University of Hawaii pretty hard. We lost quite a few of defensive tackles in the middle. One being with Eli Malo, one of our captains, as well as Deion Washington. But we did bring in an official visit ending of last week in UTEP's transfer, Logo Va'a. He came here for about 3 days. I know Coach Jeff Reinbold tweeted about, hey, we have an official visit from the defensive tackles room. Go and show him some love. He got to check us out. He does have an offer from Nevada as well. So I think he's in Nevada right now, checking that out.
Mountain West battle.
Per his social media post. That's how, sometimes you can get some of these details. But I did get a confirm. We are pursuing a wide receiver out of Kentucky. His name is Brandon White. He's super fast. He was clocked at 4.28 seconds, I think. His time is at Kentucky. So he's a track athlete. He's super fast. And ran track in high school, won a couple awards, and set a couple indoor state track meet records. But there's good news and bad news, right? And the bad news is for Brandon White is that he hasn't registered a single catch in college. The good news is he hasn't registered a single catch in college, which means that you have a guy with talent that is Power 4 material, but because he doesn't have the resume in his college career, it's not likely that he'll go to a Power 4 school. And a school like Hawaii would be perfect because Hawaii is the land of opportunities, especially for these wide receivers. We saw 2 years ago with Stephen McBride, where he came in, I think got put up 1,000 yards, if not or close to that. 2 seasons
right,
ago.
1,000.
Yeah.
And only had a couple of catches in at Kansas.
Yeah. But this guy, even though he's kind of small, he does bring speed to the outside, which we're going to have to replace about 3 positions out there, especially with Dekel Crowdes transferring. But I do think Dekel Crowdes did put in a good word for us because, especially towards the end of the season when I think Dekel tweeted out, "Thank you, QB1," and it was a highlight from Michael Alejado throwing to him. So I know Brandon White is higher up there on the boards. Can't say exactly where he is on the coaching staff's power on board, but he is higher up there, and we're hopefully we land him because he can open up a lot for us in this offense, especially taking the top off the defense. There's also a couple of rumored players that are coming in. Another defensive tackle out of Youngstown State, Jalen Ryder. He told me he's coming for an official visit. Don't know the exact dates. And then we also have out of Monterey Peninsula College, Devin Ellison, who's rumored to show up, or he's rumored to come in for an official visit. I can't confirm. I know he was at UTEP this past weekend, and he is scheduled to visit Kennesaw State the next 2 days. But I know on his UTEP visit, which is going to join the Mountain West in a couple years or so. They were having player comparisons, and his player comparison at UTEP, or at least in UTEP's eyes, is Davante Adams. So Paul's new.
Aaron Padres Devontae Adams yesterday.
Heck of a day
like,
yesterday,
what
guys.
is going on?
Heck of a second half, I should say, because it all came in the second half as well.
It was the second half, yeah, essentially. One half looked like Green Bay Packers there that I'm watching, and they're wearing green. So, I just deja vu for this Bears fan. Like, what is going on right now? But anyways, back to some college football, Michael.
But yeah, that's all that's confirmed for now. I did tweet about Utah Edge transfer Kaio Akana. He is currently on his UCLA official visit. He just came from BYU. I know Hawaii wants him. But like the family tells me, it's not about the money. So of course money's nice.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that he could come to Hawaii, but we'll see how that goes. But I know the University of Hawaii is pursuing him. They did meet last Monday, I think, for lunch. So that's one thing that's to look forward to. But yeah, there's a lot of players in the portal, and I think as we usually in free agency, I know this is not professional free agency, but usually there's a few names that are kind of the dominoes, right? And then once, like if you have like a LeBron in the free agency, like once he signs in, that's when everything follows. So Hawaii, we are kind of later behind in the totem pole, and that's just how it is, right? We're in the group of 5. We're not a Power 4 school, but expect some action in the coming weeks.
Yeah, well, it's kind of similar, like kind of to elaborate or go off of your Domino's thing. I just thought of pizza. Sorry. We were talking Little Caesars and then Domino's now.
It's like you guys know
Happy Monday, folks.
You know the NFL commercial.
Anyways, wait, before I lose my thought, I want to go on the domino effect. There we go. Keep me on. It's bad when now players have to talk about them staying, and I had to kind of, it's not really about knowing that it's bad. It's a good thing when players reaffirm their commitment, especially a top player like a Peter Manuma, because that will show other top players that, all right, this guy is staying, knowing that we don't have a lot of money that I'm sure Peter could get elsewhere, right? Like with his talents. But that, hey, some of these players are staying, and I think that only helps the University of Hawaii if some of our top players confirm that they're staying, talk about how they're happy here. Like you said, hey, maybe Dakel Crowd is putting in a good word, because, I mean, you're looking at at least what On3 has is 1,748 players, and that's just what they have. So it's likely like over 1,800, maybe closer to 2,000 players in the transfer portal right now. And I saw people make kind of the analogy about, like musical chairs, right? If they go on too long, because just like all of the players are keeping their options open, so are the coaches. Yeah, like the coaches have their list of who they want to go after the hardest, but then you also have the same thing with the players. Yeah, this is your dream school. And then somewhere after a while, you could be left essentially without a seat, whether that's without a scholarship or NIL money or what have you, or not even a place on the roster. So that's one of those. You're not going to convince me that there are 2,000 like openings, right, on teams. So that's one thing to point out when it comes to the transfer portal, is sometimes you just have to go where it is the best fit for you. I mean, we think about someone like Travis Hunter, right, going to Jackson State. Now, Heisman Trophy winner. And chose Jackson State because of Deion Sanders. And I know it's not exactly like a good comparison to go follow Deion or compared to another coach. But for the most part, you could see when Travis Hunter won the Heisman, how much he cares for and feels cared for by Coach Prime, right? So it's kind of that all of them are kids picking where they feel comfortable. He didn't go to the P5 at first. His history, he's a Heisman Trophy winner. But I think that's a testament to how important it is for people and young players to find places that they fit and that they want to be a part of, and coaches that they want to learn from, and not always chasing the money. And hey, like we talk about all the time, Paul and I, we're very pro player. Like players want to get paid.
I'm not
100%.
saying not to get your money. Yeah. That's for sure.
It's just sometimes there needs to hopefully be that good balance. So where it's like, hey, you can get a little bit of something, but I think at the end of the day, you got to go to where you'll get playing time, potentially, where it's the best fit. And that's what it'll come down to. Because again, I go back to Travis Hunter, and you saw how like elated he was, how thankful he was for Dion and Shador Sanders. And again, it's not, we talk about it with Bill Belichick. Obviously, like certain players are going to go where the coaches that have this type of experience came from, but you could tell it was a different relationship, right, with Travis Hunter and Deion Sanders. And he had the P5 potential, but chose to first go and play at Jackson State just so he could be with a program and with a coach that he felt genuinely cared about him. And then that ended up paying off for him. And now he's a Heisman Trophy winner. So I think he's a good lesson, like a deeper lesson to say, hey, go where you feel valued and where you fit. Now, not necessarily looking at the brand name all the time and the money. Because again, look at this transfer portal. Some of the players could be left with fourth, they'll still be miserable and in the transfer portal again. So if you find somewhere that you're like, this is like where I want to be and where I want to play, especially if it at least comes with a scholarship, then just go there because that's where you fit in. You prove yourself on the field. I'm sure the NIL money will come.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the shiniest object isn't always the best for the long haul. When it comes to your priorities, you need to have them straight going into the portal. You can't really be figuring them out as you are in the portal because that's typically where you see kids make the wrong decision, where they do chase the money fully and instead of pursuing a development for their football career or for whatever sport we may want to talk about, you'll see them, kind of be swayed by a dollar amount or, an apparel deal or something along those lines. And you bring up an excellent point in terms of relationships. It's one of, if not the most important thing when it comes to sports in general. I mean, honestly speaking, you can point to it in the pros to college, even high school, and I mean, at this point, even high school, where relationships go such a long way in making players feel comfortable. It goes to what Laura Beeman talks about all the time with the Rainbow Wahine, where these young women, if they feel good, they look good, all these things, they play good. And that's true for everyone. I know we always really hit the nail on the head and we're like, yes, this is especially true for young women, and it is. But, the guys like to feel cared for as well. And you've seen that. And you've seen that here at Hawaii as well, where a lot of players who haven't necessarily gotten the time of day from other coaching staffs get a little extra work behind the scenes here and then all of a sudden become productive players. I mean, it's part of the reason why Hawaii is known for taking a walk-on and creating a quality college football player.
Oh my gosh. Can you guys imagine though, like going back? Can you imagine if Travis Hunter went to Florida State and what has happened and what has happened to Florida State like ever since then? Like, oh my goodness, like good. He made paid off. He made the right decision because it could have went entirely different had he put on and kept on the Florida State hat when he made his official commitment. All right, got to take a break. When we come back, we will actually get into some University of Hawaii men's basketball conversation and let you guys hear some post-game comments as well. So we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht, Michael Lescaro. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. And streaming live on our YouTube channel like we are right now. Be sure you guys can comment on our YouTube feed or text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. And make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. So that is why you guys are the most beautifulest of all the beautiful people. And what else is beautiful? Winning. So good win by the University of Hawaii men's basketball Islanders. Over the Islanders, the Rainbow Warriors were 71-62 on Saturday night. It was a close one in the beginning, though, tied going into the half, and somewhat of a low-scoring game. Ended on 28-28 after that first half. So it was interesting, but big game for Ryan Rapp. There you go, putting up his 19 points, also followed by guard Marcus Green with 15 and Gitas Demiksha with 14. But before we dissect some of what we saw and get our thoughts from that game here, we'll start off first with some post-game from a couple of players and Coach E.G. Let's start off first with what guard Marcus Green had to say following that game.
Fun night, fun second half for you guys, kind of a grinded out first half. Kind of describe the feeling playing through that first half, a really physical first half against each other. And not that the physicality went down in that second half, but a little more offensive success in the second.
Yeah, definitely. We knew we was coming into a fight. Two 20-win great programs coming into a battle mid-December. It's going to be a fight, so we knew we had to weather the storm, and I feel like the first half showed that a lot. It was a tight game. We were just going head-to-head. Second half, we're still going head-to-head, going even harder, but we was able to pull out, and that's what a hard-fought game looks like.
3 turnovers in the first half for you, only 1 after halftime. What was kind of the difference after the break, not just for you, but maybe for the entire team as you guys made the comeback late in the first half and then kind of took over to start things at the start of the second?
I say letting the game come to us, not trying to make the forceful read, the forceful entry, see what the defense gives us, and then attack it from there. So once we play offense with pace and with what they give us, we're going to find open looks.
You and I talked a little bit about the three-point shot earlier this week. How nice was it to see the one go down, especially in such a big moment there late?
Definitely felt great. Any shot that goes down feels great, and then just being able to step up into that shot, bring some momentum to the team, definitely felt great.
What can you say about Rapper tonight? Coming off the bench, career-high 19 points, 5 of 5 from distance.
You got to put a hand in his face. If you don't, you're going to feel it. And, I keep telling him in practice, whenever I pass you the ball, shoot that ball because I see how he can shoot. I know where to get it to him, and then it's just great basketball. Catch and shoot threes.
And that was you on Saturday. Now here is just some opening comments from head coach Eran Ganat, and then you will hear from the guy of the night, Ryan Rapp.
Really appreciative of this win. Really happy for our guys. Great bounce back. We weren't far off on the road, but as you saw, we talked about, we're trying to find consistency. We've had double-digit stretches in each of those losses. Actually, every game this year, we've had a double-digit stretch in our advantage. But our lapses have been tough. And we talked a lot with our team, and obviously we've been going through it. Everybody goes through it at sometimes where there's injuries or illnesses, and you either succumb to it or you kind of fight through it. And sometimes the fight through doesn't always show up in the box score. Sometimes it's just your presence. Sometimes after a tough stretch, people want it easy, and we got everything but easy. There's a reason, we scheduled at Grand Canyon to throw our guys in the fire, and we knew Corpus Christi was a 21-win team last year. They're obviously have a chance to do that and more this year. They'll be right up there to win the league, and they play very physical. They're incredible, high-octane offensively, attack you, turn you over defensively, pressure you, athletic, strong, experienced, well coached. So you're going off where your toughness was a little inconsistent and have to play one of the tougher teams we'll see. And so I'm really appreciative of our guys fighting through that. We had to weather some things off in the first half. I thought the way we ended the first half and started the second half was a big deal. I think the whole team stepped up. Obviously, point of attack guys were Ryan Rapp, who was incredible, and he barely practiced the last 7 to 10 days. Harry had maybe half a practice and gave us a huge lift today. Aaron Clater again, his presence on the floor, maybe not so much in the box score, but he helped us. So again, with the circumstances, what was at stake, that's a great win for us.
Ryan, career high for you tonight with 19 points, 5 of 5 from distance. Just kind of what were you feeling on a night where it seemed like it was tough for a lot of guys to get into an offensive rhythm?
Honestly, I was just trying to help the guys win. It doesn't matter if I score 5 points or 20 points. It's just, at the end of the day, it comes down to winning. And that's what our culture is here, and anything we can do to win. So I'm just glad they're a really good team. They played really hard. So it was a good win.
You come off the bench tonight. We heard you maybe not practice as much as you'd like over the past week or so. When you came in, it didn't seem like anything was really going your guys' way. You grab a couple of offensive rebounds. How much of your mindset going into tonight was really just kind of being that effort guy to come in?
Yeah, well, I try to do that every night, and it's a big focal point of our team. It's just competing and trying to win every possession. It comes down to possession game at the end of the day, and I haven't got an offensive rebound this year. I've been trying. I've told Gib I would eventually got one, and I finally got one, and it was good just to turn around and see Gib excited for me and for the team. Akira got a couple. It was big time for us to get those offensive rebounds throughout the whole game as well.
6-3 for you guys as a team heading into the Diamond Head. A few national TV games for you guys. What's your personal outlook on this?
Try and win it all. It's one game at a time. I was here when we won it, when Javon hit that game winner, and there's no better feeling than winning that championship. So our expectation is to win it, but like you said, it's one game at a time. We've got a couple of days off right now to recoup and get back after it. So we got some good practices coming up that we need to take advantage of, and it's one game at a time. So we're looking forward to playing next week against Charlotte, the first game.
You guys didn't hear it. He also said to finish strong academically with finals.
And finals, correct. We got to finish strong academically too.
And finals.
That's right. Student athlete. Got to finish up finals first. That was Ryan Rapp, and then you heard Coach Aaron Ganat, and then before that we heard from Marcus Green following Saturday's really, really solid win, 71-62 over Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Now they get ready and get geared up for, it's a good, bounce back game that they had, right in between coming off of the tough road losses and now heading into the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic, which starts on Sunday. So it was nice to get this win under the belt. Good to see a player like Ryan Rapp have the type of game that he did. We know he's continued to improve season by season, and actually it feels like game by game. So I'm really liking what we see from him. He's one of those solid players that we can expect hopefully throughout the rest of the season, and then just continuing to see good things from Marcus Green. Marcus Green, I can't say enough good things about that kid, because just the way that he moves and handles the basketball and looks and wants to charge the rim, he's just so exciting and a electrifying player to watch. And Gitas, another one, of course, can't say enough about Gitas, Namiksha. So this team is really starting to find its groove and come together. Obviously, as we know, another big test this coming weekend or throughout Christmas for the Diamond Head Classic. But nonetheless, I like what they've produced so far. Again, kind of first half on Saturday, tied 28-28 going into the halftime, but able to have that nice second half and entertain a lot of fans. And like I said, I like what we're starting to see from this team as they also start to tweak the starting lineup and just the different lineups as well. So continuing to figure out what will work, and hopefully by the time the Big West schedule is here, we will know exactly what we have to work with.
I am really excited about what we are about to learn about this team, right? A second mid-season tournament or early season tournament, whatever you want to call it, to close out the non-con, and with that, an opportunity to really send yourself into Big West play. I know there's one game that's already been played. I've said this before. But really send yourself into Big West play on a high, right? Where, I mean, Texas A&M Corpus Christi is a good team. I don't know how else to say it. That's pretty as flat as I can. It's one of the better teams in the country when it comes to forcing turnovers, just their pressure overall. They're physical. I mean, if you were there Saturday or you were watching Saturday, you see how physical they are. Also, by the way, I'm curious, how many games this season has an opposing coach? Because I feel like it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's multiple times in the men's side, and I feel like there's a women's coach as well that I like. Maybe I'm mixing it up, but it feels like it's been multiple times already in this 2024-2025
right, yeah.
season. That being said, an opportunity to protect your home, win another tournament, and we also know what those types of stretches can mean down the stretch for teams, right? Where you already won one of the tournaments that you're playing in, the early season tournament. Now you get another opportunity against a really quality field in a lot of ways where, I just come off talking about Texas A&M Corpus Christi. You have a Loyola Chicago team who is coming in off a loss, unfortunately, but coming in a really strong year overall. I think it's 8-1 now after the loss yesterday. And on top of them, you have Nebraska, you have Murray State, you have Charlotte, Charlotte is your opening game, and they're an above 500 team, so that could still help you overall. And it also just helps to see these other opponents. Like, you know what you're going to get in the Big West. The styles of plays of these programs have been pretty set in stone for a long time, and Long Beach, we just saw there, so we'll continue to see that going forward. But it's an important stretch for Hawaii coming up. I'm excited to see what we learn about them because I thought they started to figure things out once again after what was a relatively concerning road trip.
Yeah, and playing Texas A&M Corpus Christi, like you said, different look teams. They were a big team, like size-wise, very athletic, very physical. So as you mentioned, seeing different look teams at what will happen in the Big West.
Yeah, we played different. We played better at home. Let's just say that, right? And they did have a week off to kind of figure things out and kind of tinker with the lineup. So it's kind of expected that they were going to win. I think they just need to play more. We see that at home they're almost differently, but when they're on the road, which you saw last week, or week before, which was kind of unfortunate, just sitting here watching those two games. But they just gotta get better on those road games. But as this coming up, this tournament coming up next week, as long as they can kind of figure out what their lineup is, we should be in a good spot. Now they just gotta get better on the road. But this team and this staff has been kind of putting together 20-win seasons, for the most part. So they're almost halfway there. I mean, over a quarter. I mean, my math's a little off. I did just turn 31.
I mean,
Much closer. 40.
almost 40. He's 31.
I just want to make
Michael's
somebody
like,
in here
almost
feel
10.
the same
Yeah,
as me.
I'm rounding
that's
up
why.
4, not 9, Koo.
Just trying to make you guys feel what I feel here.
But even so, a good tournament upcoming puts them at 9 wins. Nonetheless, that's a really nice spot to play. And I like the point that Michael makes where you're starting or you hopefully nail down what is your rotation. You kind of have at this point.
Yeah.
Where you're seeing the same 10-ish guys. It depends on if Aaron Hunkin-Clater gets in the game or not. We've seen the last 2 games. He's done that. And if he starts to look at the basket just a little bit more, I think we'll see even more of Aaron. But I really like what he brought. I don't want this segment to go before we mention what he did in just about 9 minutes. We'll call it 10 minutes because I think we can round it up to that. But I really like what he does. He gets them into their sets a lot faster. It's always pushing the tempo. It feels like he takes excellent care of the ball. I thought his one turnover was a poor call by the officials. There were a few of them and non-calls throughout the night both ways, but as neither here nor there. But nonetheless, just his second turnover on the year. He's got 4 steals. His on-ball defense has been good. His help defense has been even better. He's pesky. And he's only going to grow more. And that's another thing. I like what they're doing with him. I do. Where he's had to really fight tooth and nail in a lot of ways for his minutes. And typically you're not going to see freshmen make a real impact, at least not at the G5 and below level, make a real impact until probably the conference season, like a consistent impact. And what we've seen, to his credit and to the coaching staff's credit, is a pretty consistent Aaron Hunkenclater in those 10-minute stretches. So I'd love to see even more of that going forward. I like seeing Cody Williams look at the basket even more. I like to see Marcus Green fall into that starting lineup and kind of be that perimeter creator. Last guy you need to get going and clicking, obviously, Tom Beatty.
Tom Beatty, 100%. He's been kind of the one that has been the most surprising in the wrong way, right? Like this season, because we started to see him improve like throughout the last couple of seasons. And then this season kind of feels like a little bit of a lull start for Tom Beatty. But again, still early. We'll start to see him go. Like you said, I want to echo with Aaron Hunkenclater. If he can just look at the basket and go for the basket as much as Marcus Green does, then we got something to work with here. And that way, you know, that because he pushes the pace and he'll keep defenders like on their toes, they don't know where he's going to go or if he's going to pass or if he's going to drive to the basket, then he'll become a bit more difficult to guard. Then, hey, we're rocking and rolling here, but we got to step aside and take a break. We'll be right back to close out hour number 1 on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro on this beautiful Monday morning. Just got a few hours left in hour number 1, but we are taking you all the way through 10 o'clock on the radio and, of course, streaming live on our YouTube channel. So mahalo for tuning in, as always. All right, just to close out hour number 1, want to get back into some college football as we saw the Heisman Trophy was awarded to Travis Hunter on Saturday. So shout out. I know we had like kind of that debate between Travis Hunter and Ashton Jainty, and of course our guy Dylan Gabriel was able to get invited to New York, but have the final, I guess, tabulations for you guys on there on our YouTube channel. Travis Hunter finishing with 552 first place votes, followed by Ashton Jainty with 309, and Dylan Gabriel finishing with 24 first place votes, and Cam Ward with 6. So those are your finalists. Cam Skadibu actually getting some first place votes. I know he's kind of like almost like the fan favorite. I guess that's fair to call him.
I think there were 11 different players who received first place votes this year. This is like one of the closest Heisman races in a long time.
Yeah,
like,
but technically Cam getting 3. You got Bryson Daly of Army getting 3, Tyler Warren getting 1 out of Penn State, Shador Sanders even getting 1, and Curtis Rourke of Indiana getting 2 first place votes. But there you go, Travis Hunter with 552. And hey, shout out Dylan Gabriel. He was on the Dan Patrick show, and Dan Patrick asked him like, "Oh, saying that he would vote for Ashton Jainty too, because he knows, like, hey, you know, as a G5,
He
like,
remembers his
represent
root.
Ashton Jainty too, though. Like, oh, can't get me to not like that guy because he was the only one that wore his like team stuff in New York,
Unbelievably
and I'm like,
likable.
dang it! But you go to Boise. Oh, I want to dislike you so bad, but he's such an amazing person. It seems like.
But think about that. Think about how likable he has to be to have you like him this much
I know.
as a Boise State player. Like, I mean, he just has to be unreal levels of likable, and he really, really is. He's the type of guy that you really do appreciate leading your program, and Boise, you got a good one in him. He has led you great lengths this entire year, and the end of the year, you're going to be able to say you were a national quarter finalist at the very least.
Yeah, so even though Travis Hunter won, that's probably the more for like Dylan Gabriel, especially. It's about winning the big one. It's about winning the Natty. So they are on track to potentially at least get to the championship, and Boise State as well. But both those teams, though, a difficult road to even get into the national championship
A lot of football
game.
to be played.
Yeah, there's and like Paul said, there's a lot of football to be played. You guys bring up the Boise thing, but guys, we just have to kind of check our egos at the door and admit that Boise is a pretty good program from the top down.
No, I'm not admitting it. It's just we
I
don't
don't have to
have
like
to.
it.
Yeah, we don't have to. From a football perspective, just like how I watch the Green Bay Packers kick the Bears' butt every time, it's like I know that they're a good team. I know Aaron
I
Rodgers
hate
was
them,
a good
but I
quarterback.
respect them.
But yeah, there you go. That's the best way to put it. Like, hey, and it just pains me. Like, but he's so likable.
Can
Dang
you guys go away?
Yeah, dang it, Ashton Jainty. I was cheering for, and hey, by all accounts,
Can't wait to root for him in the NFL.
I like that he was confident in himself that he should and was going to win the Heisman as well. So, but even Travis Hunter, though, when Travis Hunter got on there for his speech, I'm like, oh, now I can't not like you either.
He's a
Dang
good
it,
dude.
he's a good dude. So
There's a
they're
lot
all
of
good.
great players. I mean,
Yeah.
Travis Hunter is just a unicorn. If it was any other year, Ashton Jainty would
I
have probably
know.
won. And if it's any other year, Dylan Gabriel would have won it. You know, it's just
Yeah.
some years there's better years for the Heisman race than others, and this year was a phenomenal one. Now I just hope Dylan Gabriel can be a first round pick like the other two guys, but we'll see.
All right. Well, when we come back for hour number 2, we will take a look at the college football playoff bracket and get you updated with where the games are and who plays who in the upcoming rounds, and also get into some NFL as I see some comments regarding a fired head coach. Anyways, we'll get to that on our YouTube channel. We'll be right back on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani, right across of Paul Brecht and next to Michael Lescaro. Oh, welcome back to the show, streaming on our YouTube channel as well and taking you to 10 o'clock. I want to say a shout out to someone watching on YouTube that commented, someone of a new commenter, Felipe Hernandez, saying you love the show and we love all of you guys that tune in and saying we should expand an extra hour, hopefully, but as you guys know, sometimes we're covering weekday games late at night, so it'll be difficult. Fine, we'll try to find more sponsors so we can expand our team, and that way it's not all of us in here having to work our clopins during the week. So, but hopefully one day that's the dream in the future. We can grow our team, and we can actually. Although I'm psychotic, and if I have more. Like our team is bigger, then I'll just put more stuff on my plate I'll just move on to the next project to do. But we have so much fun. Again, thank you for tuning in. All right, want to continue our college football conversation as we were talking about the Heisman Trophy earlier. But, you have someone like Dylan Gabriel who now they're focused on the ultimate prize. We'll get into some NFL as well. And later on in this hour, we'll talk some University of Hawaii women's basketball as they are in action tonight at the Stan Sheriff Center. So a lot to still cover in this second hour. But yes, getting to the college football playoff. I want to pull up the bracket here for all of you guys watching on our YouTube channel. As we talked about before, you got Oregon with the 1 seed, Georgia at 2, Boise State at 3, and Arizona State at 4. And those games happening on New Year. Well, Boise State game, New Year's Eve, and then you got the Oregon, Georgia, Arizona State games happening on New Year's Day. And this is where I meant where it's like the teams such as Boise State and Oregon, like to me, have quite the difficult road. And this is where it's the unfortunate thing. Hopefully we'll see how this first rendition of this expanded college football format plays out. But hopefully we can sorry, I got turned to this is what happens. The alert goes off and the text messages come in. Anyways.
Been there.
But hopefully, because when you look at the way that Oregon is set up, right, they will play the winner of Tennessee and Ohio State. Preferably, I think I'd rather get Ohio State in this matchup, but I think Tennessee will come out on top. And that'll be difficult for someone like Oregon, but Boise State more so, though, having to face the winner of Penn State and SMU. Like, if you look at the other teams that are left in Clemson and Texas and Indiana and Notre Dame, like Georgia, in my opinion, just at first glance, probably has the best matchup or potential matchup, depending on who makes it out of the first round. But Oregon and Boise State, as we refer to them with Dylan Gabriel and Ashton Jainty, going to pay attention to the future and what's coming up next, and as they gear up to hopefully win that national championship.
Yeah, I mean, for Oregon, maybe you think Tennessee, but I would be afraid if they played Ohio State. That's a rematch, and I know when they first played at Oregon, that was a very close back and forth matchup. I remember watching it in the lecture hall at UH before a UH football game, so I'm kind of afraid of that game. But Ohio State did lose to Michigan at home, so maybe they're not as good, but I just don't like revenge games like that. But this Georgia team is not as strong as previous years. So even though it looks like they have an easy matchup, that Indiana and Notre Dame game, I believe it's an in-state game, right? They're both in the same state, so that's gonna be a very heavily contested game. One thing that Georgia does have going for them is that it is gonna be in the All-State Sugar Bowl when they play, and so they'll have a more home field advantage. But yeah, Boise State. I mean, Boise State, they can hold it on. Now it's a long period from now and from their last game, and we don't know if those. I mean, as we've seen for the University of Hawaii, is when they have some of these buys, when in these tournaments we've seen in the past couple of seasons, whether it be basketball, soccer, even maybe volleyball, they won, but usually when you come off that bye, it's a little different, kind of flipping that switch again. So we'll see if some of these teams playing the first round might be able to get some momentum getting into these quarterfinal rounds.
I'm really just excited for the first 12 4-team bracket. Like, I'm curious how it ends up, right? You've seen so much consternation about, should more SEC teams get in, Big Ten teams? Did Boise State deserve the 3 seed? Did Arizona State deserve the 4 seed? So on and so forth, that conversation. I'm curious to see how those teams respond to that, right? Where, not to take away from the first round of matchups, there are going to be a lot of really fun games. Speaking of Penn State, by the way, their starting quarterback, Drew Aller, announced this morning that he'll be returning to school next year. He was honestly trending towards being a top 10 pick in this year's draft. So
doing the Cole Brennan.
It was an interesting decision, but also one where, perhaps he sees an opportunity to go even higher next year. This year's quarterback class, we'll talk about it on another day, but it's certainly an interesting one at this point in terms of NFL prospects. That Penn State game versus SMU will be super interesting because SMU, another one of those teams where do you feel, and I know they're part of the P4, right, the ACC now, but do you feel kind of disrespected after all of the talk of, they shouldn't even be in because Alabama should be in, and who have they beaten, and this, that, and the other thing? It's going to be a lot of bulletin board material that teams finally get an opportunity to either use and then go show that it's all a new even playing field, or we might see that it really still is just kind of a Big Ten SEC invitational at the end of the day. So especially being that both of those teams brought in like 700 new programs in the offseason. So curious.
So weird to say it's a Big Ten invitational because you got like Oregon there who's like.
That's why I said they when they add 706 new programs.
Yeah.
Well, my thing is with the SEC is like the SEC is not as strong as people
100%.
think. Like, and that's why people like Kirby Smart are kind of complaining about this new era. It's like, hey, you can't hoard all these top players and just leave them on the bench because they're gonna leave for better opportunities and a better NIL payout. So it's fun to watch because there's parity, and I do like that there is arguments that, hey, maybe this team should have been in there. But I think one thing with the committee was that, hey, if you didn't make your conference championship game, like you're not the best team from one of your conference. So you have to reward those that make the conference championship game because, again, like Paul says, is this going to be the SEC Big Ten Invitational? We don't want to see that. I mean, that's why we have like things like the state tournament where you have from different leagues. Yes, maybe this league has better teams, but you don't want to see that matchup again. We saw that matchup in October. We saw that matchup in November or September. We want to see this new matchups. We want the unknown. And unfortunately, Hawaii's slow in the betting world, but in the betting markets, that just leads to more opportunities and like, oh yes, let's put our money on this team. Oh, what's the odds? What's the favorite? Oh, who has the biggest odds to give me the biggest payout? And that's what we want. We don't
ridiculous to hear all the conversation about the non-conference scheduling. Let's see how this impacts versus future schedules. Alabama's going to really have to look at. Alabama lost to 3 SEC schools.
Yeah,
take care of your business inside your own conference first. I don't care about the SEC is so good. But also, that's another thing where the SEC is overrated at times. They talk about, the bottom of the SEC would win any other conference. But shut up. No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. Especially in today's day and age where NIL has evened so much of the playing field, where the transfer portal has allowed so much player movement that these G5 teams that the lower side of the P4, now they can compete with the top levels. Make winning matter. And that's what this does, where you provide the bye to teams who won a conference title. It's a good thing that we see teams win more, get rewarded for winning more.
I think Paul's kind of passionate on this topic, don't you?
Oh, it's so annoying, dude.
And anyways, Alabama does not have the buffer that was Nick Saban, where it's like they almost got like an extra credit point because Nick Saban was their coach. Like, sorry, not sorry, he's not your coach anymore. Yeah. So now you more so have to prove to win. But then when you do look at the betting market right now, Oregon is has the shortest odds to win along with Texas. So now we kind of got the even both schools at plus 350. So both Oregon and Texas right there at plus 350 odds. Your shortest shortest odds to win the Natty, followed by Georgia, which is kind of shocking because just like what you said, Michael, exactly, this isn't the Georgia that we have been accustomed to. So it's kind of interesting to see them at 5-1, along with Ohio State, who's also at 5-1. And then you got Penn State at plus 625, Notre Dame at 8-1. And then there's a significant drop off to Tennessee at 25-1, Indiana 40-1, SMU 40-1 as well. So I'm kind of curious to see Georgia up that high, to be honest, along with Ohio State. But because, as you brought up, with the Ohio State and Oregon game being relatively close, maybe that's why they're giving Ohio State a little bit more cred. But seeing Georgia up there is kind of shocking. It could be because they do have a relatively easier side of the bracket, quote unquote easier. Again, we'll see how it plays out. But because they will face the winner of Indiana and Notre Dame, and then should they move on, they'll face either Boise State or between the winner of SMU and Penn State is the side of the bracket they're on. But our Vegas friend texting in that has go Boise and Texas in the CFP. Good luck. So yeah, I was like, that would be actually kind of interesting. You know what? And I don't hate it because we talk about, again, having parity, having something that looks different. I wouldn't mind it at all. I hope like Georgia falls in this quarterfinal round would be like the best thing ever to either Indiana or Notre Dame. If we see Boise State move on to the semifinals would be great, especially for us small G5 schools and members. Do it for the G5 schools. But I love the expanded college football playoff. There's already talk about expanding it even more. But I'm just thankful. Yeah, I like the 12. There's always going to debate. There's going to be a debate about who gets in, right? I rather have them do a NIT version of like football playoff than do like expand it even more. Like I'll hear your argument to maybe 14 or 16, but after that, can we just talk about doing like a NIT version of like your college football like FBS level championship? Because after a while, I mean, your top team in college football would smack around like your 16th team. And like, that's what we're talking about here. We're giving the opportunity, the best teams in college football to play against each other to prove who is the best. And after a while, you're just going to have a huge drop off. So I like it how it is. We'll see how this goes. Maybe we want to see some reseeding after the first round. But again, we'll see how it plays out. Either way, I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna see reseeding because there are so much of these bowls that we kind of have to appease and get that going on, all these sponsors. So I don't know if reseeding is possible like we have in the NFL. But like you said, yeah, there at the most maybe 14. You do have to give the buys to at least 1-2 teams because
for sure.
Yeah, but if you have a 16 team, like what's the point of being number one if you can lose in the first round because of what I mean, saying again, you got to play who you play, but winning your conference and winning games, like Paul said, has to mean something.
All right, gonna take a break. When we come back, we will get into some NFL conversation. As much as it pains me, but we got to talk about it because there's a lot of stuff going on there. All right, we'll be right back on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Don't laugh at me, Paul.
I was just.
So what happens when you have I don't know if people can see it on my YouTube, but when you have ehu hair like I do, and then the microphone thing gets caught in your hair, and that's, Hawaiian hair girl problems. That's what,
I relate greatly to your issues.
jeez. All right, getting into some NFL conversations. It's been a fun week so far. A lot of fun because the Bears haven't played yet, so I've been enjoying this NFL
Football is
weekend.
so much fun.
It's been so much fun to watch the NFL this weekend because nothing is going on.
Yes.
The Rams.
Well, the Packers did the Rams a favor because by being the Seahawks, the Rams are now divisional leaders.
I was going to say, does that make you first place?
Yes.
There you go. And
Number one.
Let's actually pop it up right now. We'll start off with the AFC side, though. Let's look at where the playoff picture sits right now in this little graphic part via The Athletic. You got the Chiefs at the top, sitting at 13-1. Had a little bit of a scare, though. So do we see any updates on Patrick Mahomes this morning at all?
The devil magic will work its way.
He always fakes everyone
pretty
out, and you
much.
think he's injured, and then it's like, oh, he's fine to play the next game. So we'll see what happens. But the Chiefs are up there. The Bills up top, or right behind the Chiefs, after their win over the Lions, which we'll get to in just a second. The Steelers at the 3, the Texans at the 4, the Ravens at 5, Broncos at 6, and then the Chargers in that final spot. So clinching the division title, as we've said before, are the Chiefs and the Bills and the Texans, and then clinching the playoff berth along with the Steelers. But nobody so far has clinched the number 1 seed, so all these teams still got to try to play out to get that. But do we see this, gentlemen, as we only got a few games left, do you see this changing too much? Or let's just say if Patrick Mahomes is healthy, do we see this changing up, or do you kind of see maybe a change in the bottom teams? Do the Chargers essentially stay up there, and the Broncos? How do we see this playing out?
Well, the Broncos, I think we gotta go roll the tapes about the disdain for Bo Nix by the two of y'all, because
I did.
He's looking really good. But I think the AFC, the only team that might have a chance is the Dolphins, but they blew it this past weekend. So I feel like the 7 teams for the AFC is gonna be what gets in, because they it's just a lot of teams are 6 and 8. It's a lot of, and while the teams in it are 8 and 6 or better, it's gonna be hard for teams on the bottom to make their way up there. Now, for who's gonna be the number 1 seed, that's tough to say, because there are 3 games left, but the Chiefs do have a 2-game lead on the Bills, and I think everybody else, but the Bills does have the head-to-head tiebreaker, so we'll see. And if the Bills are gonna keep winning games, scoring 40 points a game, it's gonna be fun to watch what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and on the bubble right now on the AFC side are only the Colts, Dolphins, and Bengals. All 3 teams sitting at 6 and 8 right now.
I'm very curious about how it ends up, to be honest. I think the Chiefs end up holding on, just kind of what you said before, Michael. When it comes to whatever type of magic you want to refer to it as, the dark arts, devil magic, black magic, it's what the Patriots had for my entire childhood.
You mean the Bills all of a sudden able to cast a spell to Dan Campbell on the other side in terms of play calling?
The Bills, and it stinks for the Lions, by the way, the amount of injuries that they continue to go through. And obviously that makes a massive difference in that game probably. But Josh Allen is playing at a level that is, he has transcended from oh man, this guy is an MVP candidate, to oh, this guy probably should win the MVP. Because think about the way that we talked about the Bills going into the year, and I had to hear it plenty from my Bills fans' friends about how this was the year the Bills were going to fall off. The Bills were going to drop off. They traded Stephon Diggs away. They have to make some cost-cutting moves in the offseason defensively, also offensively. The line is starting to get a little bit older. You have some less proven guys in the wide receiver room. And the one constant that there was is Josh Allen. And Josh Allen continues to be this phenomenal player, this player who is a great equalizer in a lot of ways, and a reason why if I was a Buffalo fan, I feel confident still, despite that black magic that the Chiefs end up having over everybody. They're doink into the upright for the win, and then, whatever, this week they end up, I guess, blowing out the Browns. It's like two-score game is whatever. Those are the two teams that are going to come out from the AFC. The Ravens still, I don't want to completely discount them, and I know the Steelers have played a great brand of football throughout the year. They're a great defense, and they play that old-school football where they rely on the running game quite a bit. Russ has had a little bit of a career resurgence in geez, I'm criminating, in Pittsburgh. But I'll be honest, I don't believe in the Steelers when it comes to it being even probably in the Final Four. Like, maybe they make the Final Four, but that means they got to knock out one of the Chiefs or the Bills. And the way those two teams are playing, it just doesn't seem likely. The rest of the AFC up, and they were unable to really come up with a win. That's not totally his fault, but it is something to be said there where I don't totally believe in him. It's been a sophomore slump for CJ Stroud. Just a lot of things in the AFC that make you kind of turn the head and be like, eh.
Yeah, looking at the AFC, though, too, with the remaining schedule, this is where we could potentially see a shakeup at the top, and what you and I talked about, Paul, when it comes to if you want your Jets to win these divisional games just to maybe ruin things for an opposing team. But you look at Kansas City's schedule now, this is who they have left. The Texans, at Steelers, and then the Broncos. So teams that are making their playoff final teams where if they lock in, but then again, we saw the Kansas City Chiefs have to play on the road, and then they last season, and then they win it anyway. So it doesn't really matter. So this is where it's like if Patrick Mahomes divisional matchups, easier schedule potentially, as Paul shakes his head that, the Jets. So I wanted to point that out because it is kind of interesting. And then you look on the flip side, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have a pretty difficult schedule ahead of them to close out the season as they play at Baltimore, and then of course against the Chiefs, and then they close out the season against the Bengals, who if somehow they are still if the Bengals are still somehow, I don't think so, but if they are still somehow on that bubble, then that could potentially be a huge game for Cincinnati. So it's always fun to look ahead at what's coming up for some of these teams.
Yeah, the scary thing about the Chiefs is quarterback. Scary thing, and the Chiefs, everything works in their favor. So that's really scary. That's just putting it out there. Hopefully, I'm jinxing it, but what if Carson Wentz?
And it
that will
happen too.
But watch, what if he has a Nick Foles type of moment?
Oh my gosh!
I mean, Carson Wentz isn't a terrible quarterback. Okay, he's not a good one, but he's also not. We've seen him play at an MVP level in his career before the ACL injury. And he's with Andy Reid, who is one of those ones when it comes to dialing up the offense. It's not insane. I was trying to choose my words very carefully there because it's a little kooky, but it's not insane, if that makes sense.
Yeah, all right. Well, taking a look at the Super Bowl odds before we hit to break here, looking at the futures, then favorite still is the Lions at 4-1. Followed by the Bills now at plus 425, the Eagles at plus 450, and there you go, the Chiefs dropping off a little bit at plus 550, followed by the Ravens at 8-1, and then a significant drop off to the Packers at 14-1, and the Vikings at 16-1. So there you go, you got
Where's
the Lions.
Rams? Because as Chad Nelson in our chat says, let's go Rams. Yes, Chad, let's go Rams.
Let's go Rams. All right, going to take a break, but when we come back, we will get to the NFC side of the NFL playoff picture when we come back on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Kule Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. Been talking about the NFL and taking a look at the NFL playoff picture now that there's only a few games left. Yeah, I know there's a couple of games today, but we don't want to talk about it because one of the best team playing is already eliminated, and that is the Chicago Bears. So one of the teams eliminated on the NFC side of the playoff picture. But going to go ahead and bring up the NFC playoff picture for you guys right now. Again, this is via The Athletic, so they make it all nice for us to look at. The Lions are at the top with the #1 seed right now, and of course clinch the playoff berth. The Eagles would be the 2, the Buccaneers would be the 3, the Rams over there would be the 4, the Vikings the 5. We'll see what happens today, when the Bears actually beat them. The Packers at 6, and the Commanders having that 7 seed. So obviously in the NFC side, a little bit more parity. We could likely see a shakeup, as we only have the clinching the playoff berth are actually the 5th seed Vikings, the 1 seed Lions, and the 2 seed Eagles. So no team on the NFC side has actually clinched their division title, which is why we could see a big shakeup on this side, which is a lot more fun, I think, a little bit better. That's where we talk about some of the other teams on the AFC side. Like, clearly the NFC is a bit more difficult of the side. Yeah, they have collectively just have the overall better teams, as we've seen this season play out so far. So aside or different from what we mentioned with the AFC, where we kind of 1 through 7 maybe might change a little bit in terms of seeding, but for the most part those 7 teams could be your potential teams. Where you look at the NFC side, this is going to be a fun week, or fun few weeks down the stretch, to see not only what teams make it into the playoffs, but also to see how the seeding shakes up, because again, it's just a few teams in those 7 that have the playoff, if it were to happen today, that have actually clinched a playoff berth. So only 3 out of the 7, and none of them have clinched their actual divisional titles. So still a lot in there. Again, they just have the 3, and then in the hunt are the Buccaneers, Rams, Packers, and then, as we said, Commanders. And then on the bubble, Seahawks, Cardinals, Falcons, 49ers, Cowboys, and Saints. And then
big bubble.
Yeah, and then eliminated the Bears, Panthers, and the Giants. So what do you guys think? An unbiased opinion, Michael Lescaro. What do we see with the how this NFC side shakes out?
Well, right now the top 4 is the same top 4 that I predicted in the summer with Paul, and I mean the order is a little bit different and mix and match, but yeah, it's the top 4 is still the same. So what it looks like right now, this pretty much could be what it is. The Commanders are having a really solid season. Shout out Marcus Mariota over there. Maybe he might be able to take the Washington Commanders on a Nick Foles run. But yeah, again, we don't root for injuries, but it would be kind of cool to watch Marcus in the playoffs. I think the Seahawks, they have been dipping. They have been on a slide after Paul proclaimed Geno Smith to be a top 15 quarterback.
They played very well after I proclaimed that, by the way, so Michael can't make that point. I'm not going to let him I'm not letting that one slide, because they played actually exceptionally well after I made that point. Now he wants to make revisionist history and look back and be like, oh, Geno played well. Geno got hurt yesterday, and after that, the Seahawks played even worse. So I just want to say that.
Yeah, but again, the Seahawks, they have a new head coach.
Buddy boy.
Yeah, the Packers are going to get in, that's for sure. The Seahawks does play the Rams in the last week of the season, I believe, so that's going to be a tough game. That could be a Sunday night game, because that would probably decide the division. The Cardinals, too, are sneakily scary. They beat the Rams early in the season by like 30, I think. So the NFC West is definitely not locked up from an unbiased perspective. But the Rams do play the Jets next Sunday.
A big one.
And I don't know, the Jets somehow are starting to see. The thing is with the Jets, in my fantasy league, I do have Breece Hall and Devontae Adams, but they play the Rams in a must-win game. So I don't know what I'm going to be rooting for.
The brain versus the heart.
That's going to be the hardest thing. But hopefully it's a shootout, because we like shootouts. And yeah. But yeah, Paul, what do you think?
I think if you're hoping for the Jets to get into a shootout, I think I have a bridge to sell you. No, I think that's a really fair way to put it, all where the one division, or I guess the 2 divisions that you really look at this point in the NFC are the West and the South, where quite wrapped up the division. It's been a brutal year for them when it comes to...
I would say the North. You got 3 out of the 4 teams that are up there.
But that's not... So all 3 of them are making the playoffs. Like, I don't feel the need to talk about them. You know, that's more what I'm kind of saying. The Buccaneers haven't necessarily clinched their playoff spot, but, I mean, it's been not a great year for Kirk Cousins. He's had flashes, but he very much so looks like an old man coming off an Achilles injury. As somebody who's very familiar with what that looks like, it's been you see Falcons fans clamoring for potentially Michael Penix Jr. The talent is there in Atlanta. That's still, I mean, the issue is just their inconsistency at this point. The Buccaneers, almost like a pseudo Lions season where it feels like they go through major injury after major injury, just not to the same degree as Detroit, who loses multiple starters per game. It feels like
crazy thing. I can't even imagine how good the Detroit Lions would be down this stretch if they didn't like. I get it.
I mean,
Football
like their
injuries
entire
happen.
First string defense.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like
hurt.
if they actually like didn't lose like talent like Aiden Hutchinson, like how scary this Lions team would be. And they're still I mean, they lost this weekend, but they still look good against a very good Bills team, right? So this is going to be interesting down the stretch. And for the Lions, they do have to, go through the Bears first in Chicago, one of their games, and then play at the Niners and then play against the Vikings. So kind of similar to the AFC side, it's going to be fun to see how maybe that final week plays out to vie for seeding potentially. All of the playoff spots may be locked in except for the bottom 2. But at the same time, you have those divisional games with the Lions and Vikings, and maybe the Bears can play spoiler at the very least for some of these teams. I know you and I talked about that, Paul, where you kind of want your teams that they're eliminated. I know. Here we are. Here we go again. I've seen this
flat circle.
But like the Packers, they play the Bears for the final game of the season, right? So if the Bears can somehow play spoiler, even though winning could potentially mean putting them back in terms of draft picks, I'm all for. If it means somehow either win-win situation would be if that Bears game against the Packers would mean eliminating the Packers from the playoffs. I won't hold my breath on that, but that would be pretty cool. And then I would, at least as a Bears fan, it would feel like it's a playoff game because I would just want them to beat the Packers so bad just to eliminate them.
Just feel something to close the season.
You also look at someone like the Commanders. They have to play a really good Eagles team right now through the next week, and then play the Falcons, and then finish up playing at Dallas, who Dallas has kind of been the surprise in this back half of the season. Looked like everything was just falling apart, and now they've been able to string together some of these wins, and nice convincing wins at that. Again, shout out to our sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, Colau Federal Credit Union, where you guys can hear those games on HSRN. But it's going to be a fun one down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm still interested in the NFC side quite a bit, where Michael brings up his Rams. I've been a really big fan of the way that they've been trending as the season has gone on, and similar to Michael, I have hated the way that, well, actually not similar to Michael. Michael's probably loved the way that the Seahawks have trended, but I just have a very, I hate the way that the Seahawks have been playing as the year has gone on. It is a team who started out exceptionally well and then hit a couple of bumps, and now just not an impressive team at this point. I say this as well after they beat the Jets, but that's not really an impressive feat. It's the Rams are a team who's really scary if they're able to make it in, and it feels like the NFC West might be a one team in division in terms of the total teams, where the Commanders have put themselves in a really good spot even with a difficult schedule down the stretch. Have they given themselves enough cushion to hold off those other wild card potentials, right? The Cardinals, as well as they have played and as well as they've played at times, also semi-inconsistent. It's kind of the story for the NFC West this entire year. The 49ers, I mean, until they're dead, they're kind of like the Wicked Witch, right? Until they're dead, you can't say that they're officially gone.
They're done, though.
But they feel pretty done, I will say that. I will give a shout out to the Eagles, because I know we have many friends here at HSRN who are Eagles folks, and what a year it's been for them. And got to be nice for a lot of fans to see Jalen Hurts hook up with A.J. Brown for a touchdown this past weekend. I know there was all the drama and whatever between them this past week. So glad to see that. They're a wagon. The addition of Saquon Barkley has unlocked quite a bit where it just makes that offense so unbelievably dangerous. And I'll give a shout out to a former Jet in Mekhi Becton, who has moved from tackle. Originally was drafted to be a left tackle, now plays right guard, and he has had an outstanding season on the line for Philadelphia. So the Eagles, a really impressive unit. They're a team who, should things go that way, with the Lions' injuries, do they take over as the top team in the NFC?
I picked them to be the top team, but on a winning streak since Nick Sirianni shaved his head. So for all you fans out there, maybe that want their teams to get out there, I think you might need to shave your head. Maybe some good fortune comes your way. So
hey.
That's a good point, actually, because when the Jets fired Robert Saleh, their bald king, they just lost and lost and lost and lost. So many people are saying that when you go bald, that means wins follow. It's all.
Okay, sure. All right, so a couple of games tonight. We got 2 games for Monday Night Football. Bears at Vikings. Minnesota favored by 7. I'm not holding out hope. I think the Vikings. Did I pick the Vikings to win? I think I did it in our quick picks. And then you got the Falcons and Raiders. Atlanta going to Las Vegas, and your 6.5-point favorite. The Raiders are just another sad time for our Las Vegas friends. Hopefully they'll get a Shedeur Sanders or whatnot making his unofficial pitch to become a Las Vegas Raider in this upcoming draft. All right, going to step aside. When we come back, we will close out with some University of Hawaii women's basketball talk next on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. All right, before we completely stop our NFL conversation here, where was the comment that as Caesar does so well, he gives us really good ideas about stuff?
Which?
Where he mentioned Caesar was replying to Felipe on here. I love Dennis Thurman, but we'd be okay if he decides to go elsewhere. We can always hire former Bears head coach Matt Eberflus to be our DC. I'm sure Ku would love Eberflus to be our DC. Matt Eberflus for Hawaii and Matt Nagy as Hawaii OC. The Hawaii Rainbow Bears, and rename the new Aloha Stadium Aloha Soldier Field. Shout out Caesar. I love the creativity ideas that he brings to our very lively YouTube chat. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that before we close out our NFL conversation for today. All right, going over to UH women's basketball. The ladies are in action tonight. We kind of give you our thoughts on that upcoming game and take a look ahead for the Rainbow Wahine. Here is what head coach Laura Beeman had to tell the media sometime in the middle of last week, actually. And then first being asked her response to kind of their game plan now, coming off of that loss to Long Beach State, 73-69. So here's UH women's basketball head coach Laura Beeman.
Gosh, I think our process is always waiting for the next play, waiting for the next game, getting ready. We can stay back on, last Saturday and feel bad for ourselves, or we can move forward. And we've got a group of girls that want to move forward. Tis the season. I'm not gonna stay grinchy.
Meeting against Arkansas's Pine Bluff, just what do you know about that team? I mean, I know that the head coach has played against Hawaii in her playing days, but just what do you know about the team you guys have played against?
I think they mirror Long Beach a lot, actually. Really athletic. They're going to play a fast style game. I think we're going to see a lot of pressure defensively. Don't shoot the ball great. They don't really have as good an inside presence as I think what we have. But I think they're going to challenge us athletically, and it's going to be very, very similar to what we saw last Saturday.
You've kind of talked to us a little bit about getting exposed in these last couple of games in areas that you guys need to grow. As you've gone back in film, has it been the exact areas that the eye test kind of was saying, or have you found something else? What's the kind of thought process?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have a team that's experienced, but you also don't know what you don't know. And I don't know if we yet understand that every time we step on the court against somebody, they're going to give us their best because of our rankings. Being chosen number 1 for the Big West, being in the mid-major poll twice now, everyone's coming after us. And I don't know if we've yet to understand what that takes in order to get ourselves ready. I think our effort was lacking against Long Beach. The 2 areas we needed to really control, we didn't. Transition defense and boards. I think that those were areas when we played against Fresno and UT Martin that we also got exposed. We were just able to pull those games out. So eventually playing from behind gets you. This is a team that's going to continue to grow. Going undefeated in conference would have been wonderful. We talked about it. It's also a lot of pressure. And just at this point in time, we want to show up, get ready for every game, play every game. We're going to win some, we're going to lose some, we're going to bounce back and get ready to go. And as you guys know with what we do in this program, we are usually ready when it counts.
You've talked a little bit about growth as well with the younger players. You guys have gone through some injuries, some hiccups here and there through the first few games. Obviously, Jovi missed some, Retoria missed some. How have you liked what the younger players have given you when they needed to step up into those roles?
When we recruit players, we recruit kids that have some grit, we recruit kids that have experience, we recruit kids that want to win. And so when you throw them into the fire, again, they don't know what they don't know. You want them to play with effort, you want them to try to execute, you want them to continue to have fun so that it doesn't become such a grind that it's like, why am I doing this? So watching our youngsters get on the court and play hard and execute our stuff, not only is it great for that moment, but it's really exciting for our future. Well, we knew when we recruited Retoria, she was going to bring something really special to our program. She has, great international experience. She comes from a, incredibly athletic family. Her dad, I think, was a professional volleyball player. She knows how to win. And, watching her play in New Zealand, it was a no-brainer. We were just shocked at how little she had been recruited. So the opportunity to bring her over here and work with her and develop her, in our minds, it was exciting. And then to get her in here with the same attitude of, I really want to dominate, I want to be the best. She will represent her country one day, without a doubt. And that's exciting for her. And I think that she could actually have a career in the WNBA if she continues to work and grow and puts that muscle and eats a little bit more rice over here. But it helps when the player has the attitude to back the ability, and she absolutely does.
And this is the last home game for a little road trip. What would you like to see just to end this home stay?
A win. A win. Dear Christmas, dear Santa, right? No, I want to see us play well. I want to see us play well and get ready for San Diego. We've got 2 great opponents in that tournament as well. But we're not even looking that way until we get past Pine Bluff, and we know they're going to come here with energy and effort. Teams know when teams are coming off a hard loss, and you can just kind of feel that. So I know what they're going to come in here, what energy they're going to bring. So playing well, executing our stuff, getting us ready for San Diego, but definitely a win.
And that was UH women's basketball head coach Laura Beeman addressing the media last week as they look ahead to play Arkansas Pine Bluff tonight, 7 o'clock p.m. at the Stan Sheriff Center, coming off of that a surprising loss to Long Beach State here at home, especially. That's probably the reason why it was the most surprising for everyone. I mean, how much did Paul and I talk about, and we'll continue to talk about, how good this women's basketball team is and how high the expectation has been. And it was just somewhat shocking. Maybe it was a good loss for the Rainbow Wahine, right? Finally making them feel human, looking at things. And I think you asked the question perfectly, right? Like getting exposed now, it gives them more to look at when they check the tape and everything. But losing to Long Beach State to open up Big West season last week, 73-69. So at least a close game down the stretch. And as we continue to see Ritor Tamilo just do her thing. But for the Rainbow Wahine, very, very important to bounce back against an Arkansas Pine Bluff before you go on the road and have a somewhat daunting schedule on the road. They will play this Friday at Clemson, in San Diego, but against Clemson, and then against San Diego State on Saturday, and then opening up the official portion of the Big West schedule on the road at UC Santa Barbara and Cal Poly. So this is your last time to see this Rainbow Wahine basketball squad in person this year. So not coming back home until January 9th, but this is definitely a must-win game to close out the homestand of 2024.
Losses just in general are not acceptable in the Rainbow Wahine program. It's something I appreciate most about them, where nobody took it harder than the coaches and the players, and I know fans are really passionate. I know fans get frustrated after losses, especially ones where you feel like they should win. Imagine how they feel. Yeah. It was a bit shocking to see that loss. And listen, they're human. It happens, and happens all of the time, actually. It happens to the best teams in the country. And I'm not talking, best in like a conference. I'm talking like number 1, number 2, number 3 team in the country. They lose games, and they lose games on their home floor sometimes. And it can be because of any number of reasons. The important thing is that you don't dwell on it. The important thing is that you take it and you do learn from it. You look at the areas and you're honest with yourself. Okay, where do we need to be better? How can we be better? Are we living up to the standards we are setting for ourselves? And if not, how can we get there? And that's something that I've never doubted with this team, never will doubt with this program, is that they will always look inward and see where they need to go so that they can get back on track and back to the winning ways. And it's why it's always so important that their mindset always was just one game at a time, and still is just one game at a time. Because I guarantee they're not looking ahead to a Clemson or looking ahead to a San Diego State. They are focused on tonight. They're focused on reclaiming that dominance that they have shown us at times in the Stan Sheriff Center. And you have an opportunity against an Arkansas Pine Bluff team that has a ton. You have so many returners. You have so much experience back in this program, not just college experience, but college experience playing for the Rainbow Wahine. You get to go against the team with 10 transfers, 10 new faces, and only 3 letter winners from last year. So I'm curious to see how the Rainbow Wahine start tonight, how their energy is, and can they maintain that through the entire night, because we've seen that before where they have excellent stretches, excellent quarters, excellent halves, but can they put together the full 4 against an opponent and get yourself back on track before you go on the road?
And taking a look at Arkansas Pine Bluff and how they've done so far this season, sitting at a 2-6 overall. Played some pretty tough opponents though, so they're definitely battle tested. Opened up the season at Oklahoma State, losing 96-43. Had to play at Tulsa in a close one, 63-60. Played at Ole Miss, who is a very, very good team this year. Lost 85-24. And their wins coming against Arkansas Baptist and Texas A&M Texarkana. Is that how you say it? Texarkana? I don't know. I've never heard of that until I see it right now on their schedule. So they had some huge wins against those schools, but then are coming off of a 3-game losing streak at Sam Houston, 68-48, at SMU, 82-58, and then against North Alabama, most recently losing 62-48. So again, it's hard to make out how this team is looking at the schedule, because they either play really, really good teams or really not so good teams, and it's kind of they won who they should have won against and they lost who they should have, because that's a really tough schedule and a road schedule as well. So like I said, they're definitely battle tested, is this Arkansas Pine Bluff squad.
Yeah, they'll be ready to go playing in a hostile environment wherever it is. One thing I will caution fans who might overlook this game, think about what just happened. I know it's not a conference game, but think about just what happened with Long Beach State for the men, where you go against a team that hasn't necessarily won a ton of games, but also has played a difficult schedule and has a lot of new faces trying to get integrated together. All it takes is one night for things to click, and you just hope that night isn't against you. It's important for the Rainbow Wahine that they set the tone from the opening tip and throughout that entire first quarter tonight.
Yeah, we'll be fine. We're not going to lose 3 home games in a row. And like I said, like the Long Beach game, me and Paul were at that game, and there was just a lot of things that went wrong. You know, if we just make our free throws, that's something that's correctable. And again, this is a team that has multiple, like over a week now since their last played. They've figured it out over this past week, and they're going to get this early game, get this win, and then they can finish up on their finals, and that'll be good for them.
So you're saying the Craig curse will get, well, I guess it already got broken on Saturday, but broken again.
Well, I mean, this coaching staff is really good. So this coaching staff is really good. They can overcome that curse.
We can't continue that propaganda anymore. Anywho, yes, again tonight, Rainbow Wahine basketball against Arkansas Pine Bluff, 7:00 p.m. at the Stan Sheriff Center. But for now, we gotta go. So for Paul Brecht, Michael Lescaro, I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Mahalo for listening and watching. Bye.
Home of the Dallas Cowboys, KGU AM, K236CR Honolulu is the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760.